Beneath the Sycamore Tree, Chapter 1, The Return. The sun hung low over the rolling fields of Indiana, casting a soft amber glow on the dusty road that led to the town of Sycamore Bend. It had been nearly 30 years since Daniel Whitaker last saw that road. Now, with a battered leather duffel bag on the passenger seat and a heart full of ghosts, he drove past the familiar white fence posts and weather-worn barns of his childhood. He'd never meant to return. Sycamore Bend was the kind of town that seemed untouched by time. A single stoplight blinked at the center of Main Street, and the diner, Marlene's, still had the same chipped green booths and handwritten pie menu in the window. As Daniel's pickup rumbled past, he saw old Harold Cooper sitting on the bench outside the post office, waving to everyone who passed like a human landmark. Daniel gave a slow nod but didn't stop. Not yet. He wasn't ready. He turned onto Willow Creek Road, where the houses grew farther apart and the fields opened up. The air smelled of cut hay and distant rain. The Whitaker farmhouse came into view just beyond a stretch of broken fence and wild sycamores lining the drive. The old place had sagged under time, peeling paint, a rusted swing set out back, and the barn doors hanging crooked, but it was still home in a way only childhood homes can be. He parked and sat quietly, listening to the ticks of the cooling engine and the whispering wind in the trees. Then slowly, he stepped out. The porch creaked under his boots. He reached above the doorframe, where the spare key had been hidden for as long as he could remember. It was still there. The air inside was stale. Dust hung in rays of light that pierced through cracked blinds. His mother's china cabinet still stood against the far wall, her collection of blue willow plates untouched. A yellowing calendar from 1997 hung in the kitchen. Everything felt frozen. Daniel walked through the rooms, touching surfaces like they were relics. In the living room, the old fireplace held ashes from a fire long since burned out. His father's worn recliner was still there, facing the television set, with the antenna crooked like a broken limb. On the mantel, a faded photo of his younger sister, Ellie, smiled out at him. She'd been gone for over 25 years now, and so had he. The upstairs hallway smelled of lavender and wood polish. He opened the door to his old bedroom. The same quilt covered the bed. The same posters hung on the walls. Eagles, Springsteen, a 1977 Chevy Camaro. His baseball gloves still sat on the shelf. But the room that stopped him was Ellie's room. He hadn't been inside since the funeral. Everything was just as she left it: an open journal on the desk, a half-completed crossword puzzle, a music box shaped like a carousel. He picked it up, turned the key underneath, and the soft notes of Edelweiss began to play. He closed his eyes. It all came rushing back. The accident, the hospital, the silence between him and his parents afterwards, the way he packed his things and left for good. But now, with both his parents gone and the estate falling into his hands, there was nowhere else to run. Daniel sat down on Ellie's bed and exhaled for what felt like the first time in years. Chapter 2, Ghosts in the Diner. Daniel awoke to the sound of rain tapping softly against the window panes. Morning light filtered through the curtains in pale gray streaks. He had fallen asleep on Ellie's bed, fully dressed, the music box still in his hand. After a long shower in a bathroom that hadn't changed since the 80s, pink tiles and all, he made coffee in the old percolator. The kitchen was quiet, save for the rhythmic drip of the faucet and the hum of the fridge. He stared out the window at the barn, remembering summer evenings spent feeding horses and chasing fireflies. But this morning, he needed something stronger than nostalgia. He needed a plan. The farmhouse was falling apart. The bills were likely stacked in a drawer somewhere, and the place held more ghosts than he cared to count. He grabbed his coat and headed into town. Marlene's diner looked exactly the same. A silver bell chimed as he pushed the door open. Inside, the air smelled of bacon, coffee, and maple syrup. Locals filled the booths, many with faces aged but familiar. Conversation died as soon as he walked in. "Dan Whitaker?" a voice called out. He turned. Behind the counter stood Marlene herself, apron dusted with flour, her silver hair in a tidy bun. Her eyes widened in disbelief, then softened. "Well, I'll be. Thought we'd seen the last of you." Daniel gave a sheepish nod. "Didn't think I'd be back either." "You're sitting in your dad's booth," she said with a faint smile. "Coffee?" He slid into the vinyl seat and nodded. "Please." As she poured, a few other patrons gave polite nods or murmured greetings, people he remembered only in fragments. Tommy Ballard, who used to mow lawns with him in the summers. Grace Miller, now with 2 kids in tow. Pete Rasmussen, who taught woodshop. Then came a voice from behind him, warm, clear, and familiar. "Well, if it isn't Daniel Whitaker, back from the dead?" He turned and saw her. Rachel Hart, older now but unmistakable. Her auburn hair had traces of gray, but her eyes were the same, sharp, amused, and deeply kind. She wore a jean jacket and a smudge of flour on her cheek. "Rachel," he said, unable to hide his smile, "I heard you took over the bakery." 5 years now. Still make the best apple pie in 3 counties. And you, what brings the prodigal son back to Sycamore Bend? My parents passed. I inherited the house. She nodded solemnly. I'm sorry. Your mom was always good to me. Used to slip me lemon bars when your dad wasn't looking. I chuckled softly. That sounds like her. They talked for a while about town gossip, the state of the high school football team, the mayor's latest scandal involving chickens. But underneath it all was something else, a tension, a question neither had yet asked. Finally she leaned in. You're staying long? He hesitated. Not sure yet. Depends on what I find. Rachel looked at him for a moment, then reached into her coat pocket and pulled out a small, creased envelope. She slid it across the table. This was mailed to my bakery last month. No return address, but it was meant for you. Daniel stared at the envelope. On the front, in neat cursive, was written, Daniel Whitaker, to be opened upon your return. His hands trembled slightly as he opened it. Inside was a letter, yellowed with age, but clearly written recently. The handwriting was unmistakable. It was Ellie's. Chapter 3. Ellie's Letter. The letter was short, the kind of letter that speaks louder between the lines. Dear Danny, if you're reading this, then somehow the impossible happened. You came home. I hope you found your way back before the walls of our house gave in, before the barn collapsed, before Mom's roses turned wild. If you're back, it means you finally stopped running from this town, from what happened, and from me. There's something I never got to tell you, something I need you to find. Look beneath the floorboards in the attic, the east wall, just beneath the third window. I left something there for you. Something important. Something unfinished. Love always, Ellie. P.S. You still owe me that ice cream from Schaefer's. No cheating. Daniel read the letter twice, then again. He ran his thumb over the signature, still rounded like it was written by the 17-year-old girl she'd never gotten to outgrow. His chest felt heavy. Not grief, not exactly. With confusion, with longing, with guilt. Rachel watched him quietly, sipping her coffee. "That arrived out of nowhere," she said softly. "Postmarked a last month. I almost didn't open it, thought it was some mistake, but when I saw her name, well, I figured I'd hold on to it until the impossible happened." Daniel finished. Exactly. Later that afternoon, back at the farmhouse, Daniel climbed the creaking stairs to the attic. The light was thin and dust choked the air, but the bones of the place were the same. He crossed to the east wall. The third window overlooked the fields where he and Ellie used to build forts out of hay bales. He knelt and tapped the floorboards. The third plank in was loose. His heart beat louder as he pried it up with a crowbar he'd found in the barn. Beneath it was a faded tin box tied with a blue ribbon. Inside were three things. 1. A photograph, the two of them at the county fair, faces smudged with cotton candy, Ellie mid-laugh. 2. A cassette tape labeled "Play Me" in Ellie's handwriting. 3. A folded piece of paper with the title, "The Summer We Didn't Say Goodbye." He unfolded it. It was a story, Ellie's story, or maybe their story. She had written about the summer before she died, how she had sensed something was wrong even then, how she wished she had spoken to him more, told him what she was going through, how they'd both been drifting, too proud, too hurt, too young to understand. And at the end of the page, "There's more, if you want it. I left it all with Miss Adelaide." Daniel blinked. Miss Adelaide? The librarian? He remembered the elderly woman who ran the tiny Sycamore Bend library with a velvet fist. She used to scold them for whispering too loudly. She must be long gone by now, but maybe someone else had taken over. He slipped the cassette tape into his jacket pocket and made his way downstairs. Before leaving, he glanced once more at the attic window. Even the light up here felt like memory. An hour later, the library sat quiet and sunlit on the edge of town. The building had been restored, fresh white paint, new windows, and a hand-carved sign reading "The Adelaide Whitmore Memorial Library." Inside, it smelled of old pages and lemon oil. Behind the front desk sat a younger woman in her 30s, glasses perched on her head, typing on a laptop. "Hi, I'm looking for, well, maybe this is a strange question. Did Miss Adelaide keep personal archives?" She raised an eyebrow. "Are you Daniel Whitaker?" His mouth dried. "Yes." She stood and crossed to a small storage room behind the desk. After a few moments, she returned with a wooden box. She said if you ever came back, this was yours. Inside was a journal, Ellie's journal, dozens of pages dated from the last year of her life. He opened it and read the first line. "I don't think I'm afraid of dying. I think I'm afraid of being forgotten." He sat down in the reading room and turned the page. Chapter 4. The Things She Left Behind. Daniel didn't notice the world moving around him as he read. The pages of Ellie's journal unfolded like a quiet confession. Her words were raw and young, but full of wisdom that came from watching life through a smaller window than most. She wrote about school, her friends, her quiet fears, her dreams. She talked about their parents, their silence, the way grief hung in the air even before her diagnosis. But most of all, she wrote about him. "Danny was always my protector, ever since I was little. He used to chase off the neighborhood boys who teased me, even if he got in trouble for it. But lately, I don't know. We hardly talk. I think he's angry, or maybe just scared." I wish I could tell him I'm scared too. Some nights I hear him crying in the barn. I never say anything. I just sit outside and wait until he stops. He thinks I don't know he's planning to leave, but I do. He can't stand to watch me fade. I wish he understood. I'd rather he stayed, even if it hurt. Daniel wiped his eyes as the pages turned, the ink smudged in places where she'd clearly cried while writing. The last entry was dated 2 weeks before the accident. If he ever comes back, I hope he finds this. I hope he knows I forgave him before there was anything to forgive, and I hope he lets go of the weight he's carried for too long. I never wanted him to carry mine too. The last page ended abruptly, followed only by a small drawing of a sycamore tree, with initials carved into its bark. That evening, Daniel sat on the farmhouse porch with Rachel. He'd invited her over without fully knowing why, maybe because she was part of the past he wasn't ready to lose again, or maybe because she was one of the few people who remembered Ellie as more than a ghost. He handed her the letter, then the journal. Rachel read in silence. The sun dipped below the horizon, turning the sky into brush strokes of gold and purple. When she finished, she placed the journal in her lap and looked at him. "You've been holding this for a long time, haven't you?" she asked. Daniel nodded. "I left because I thought I was honoring her memory. I didn't know I was burying it." Rachel tilted her head. "Maybe now's the time to dig it back up." They sat quietly for a while, listening to the cicadas buzz in the twilight. "I found a cassette," Daniel said. "She recorded something. I haven't listened to it yet. You want company?" He thought for a moment, then shook his head. "No, not this time. I think she meant it for me." Later that night, in his old bedroom, Daniel dug out the portable cassette player from the attic. It still worked, barely. He pressed play. The tape crackled, then a pause, then Ellie's voice, soft, clear, and haunting. "Hey, Danny, if you're listening to this, well, either you're going through my stuff without asking, or you finally came home. Either way, hi. I recorded this after one of my treatments. I wasn't feeling great, but I kept thinking about all the things I'd never get to say. So here I am, one last time. You were always trying to be strong for me, always carrying everything like it was your job to fix it. But it wasn't. It never was. I wish I'd told you more how much I loved you. You were my favorite person, always. I'm not afraid of what's coming. I just want to make sure you're not afraid to keep living, really living. There's a letter I left in the tree, the one by the creek. You know the one. Good night, Danny. I love you." The tape clicked. Daniel sat still, staring at the player. Tears rolled down his cheeks, silent and warm. He knew the tree. Of course he did. It was their place. The next morning, just after dawn, he walked through the field behind the barn. Dew clung to his boots and the fog curled low over the grass. The sycamore by the creek stood tall, ancient, and knotted, with initials still carved deep into its bark. Tucked into a hollow in the tree, wrapped in a Ziploc bag, was a letter. He opened it slowly. Chapter 5. A New Kind of Home. The paper in his hands was faded but dry, protected by the care Ellie had taken all those years ago. The handwriting was familiar now. Each loop and curve felt like a voice from the past come back to life. Daniel leaned against the old sycamore and began to read. Dear Danny, you always said this tree was magic. Remember how we'd lie under it, watching clouds, making up stories about the people in town? You thought Harold Cooper was a retired spy, and I swore Marlene had a secret twin who ran the night shift. We were ridiculous, but happy. That's what I want you to remember. Not the end, not the beeping hospital machines or the way I faded. I want you to remember the laughter, the jokes, The afternoons when the whole world was just you, me, and the sound of the creek. If you're reading this, it means you finally came back. I always believed you would. You were never really the type to leave forever, just long enough to learn that leaving doesn't always fix things. I'm gone, but not gone. You'll find me in the weird bend in the road where we used to crash our bikes, in the diner booths and Mom's humming when she made biscuits, in the music box upstairs, and especially here, under this tree. You don't have to forgive yourself. There was nothing to forgive. But you do have to live. Find the people who still care about you. Be someone's porch light, someone's Sunday morning. You've got so much love left in you, and the world still needs it. Go home, Danny, or build a new one. Love always. Ellie. He folded the letter gently, as if it were made of glass. The wind stirred the sycamore leaves above him, and for a moment he imagined her voice in their rustle. Not as a ghost, but as something woven into the roots of this place. A note in a melody that never really stopped. Over the next few weeks, Daniel stayed. At first, it was practical. Repairs to the house, selling off equipment from the barn, clearing out the attic. But slowly, the town stopped feeling like a memory and started becoming something else. Marlene insisted he join trivia nights at the diner. Rachel dropped off a pie every Friday and started leaving notes in the boxes. One read, "You never did tell me why you ran off to Arizona." Another, "The bakery needs a handyman. You know anyone good with a hammer?" He did. He fixed the fence behind the library, helped coach the high school baseball team, gave a talk at the community center about fire safety, something he hadn't done since his early days as a firefighter. And every few nights, he'd return to the Sycamore with a thermos of coffee and Ellie's journal in his coat, not out of sadness, but as a ritual, a thank you. One afternoon in late October, he met Rachel at the edge of town. The leaves had turned every shade of fire, gold, orange, crimson. She asked, "Busy today?" He shook his head. "Not really. Thinking of going out to the tree." She smiled. "Mind if I come with you?" He looked at her for a long moment. "No," he said softly. "I'd like that." They walked side by side through the field, the wind carrying the scent of burning leaves and something older, something familiar. As they reached the tree, Daniel placed a small wooden sign at its base. Rachel leaned in to read it. "Ellie's place, where memories rest and love grows roots." She looked at him, mist in her eyes. She'd have liked that. He chuckled. She'd have rolled her eyes at the poetry, but yeah, she'd have liked it. They sat in silence for a while. Then Rachel reached over and took his hand. And Daniel Whitaker, after years of running, hiding, grieving, finally exhaled. Not because he had let go of the past, but because he'd finally let it live beside him.